Hello Flickering Myth family and welcome to our channel. My name is EJ and we are back with a brand new horror movie review. This might end up being one of my favorite horror films of the year. Yes, we are talking about the new film Clown in a Cornfield.
And remember, kids.
Look, I will be honest with you all. I saw the name of this movie and I expected a generic horror movie, a generic slasher movie to be more specifically. You know exactly what it would have been. A clown terrorizing a bunch of teenagers in a cornfield. We've seen it. We've seen this kind of element be done before, but this movie is anything but generic. I really am so impressed with what they were able to do from the book to the movie version and all of that. I was actually able to read the book over the weekend after I saw the movie and again, anything but generic. This has definitely the homage, the template you would need. There is a little bit of Halloween, a little bit of Friday the 13th. There's a little bit of every kind of horror movie you can think is mixed up in here. I think even the beginning, just, there's a couple that goes into the cornfield, and that's how we start all of the craziness. That gave me some Jaws feelings as well. I love what this movie has to set up. I love what it has to say. I love what it has to do. This is the exact type of horror movie I wanted to see this year. But I will also say it is not just a simple, straightforward horror movie. This is a horror comedy from director Eli Craig. You know him from Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. That is one of my absolute favorite, modern day horror films, a horror comedy classic that I show everyone I get the chance to. Yeah, he is back with another film, and if you loved Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, you are going to absolutely love the madness that is Clown in a Cornfield. The story follows Quinn Maybrook and her father, Dr. Maybrook. Quinn is a young girl dealing with the death of her mother, and her father basically decides, let's flee our old life and go to the middle of nowhere and start fresh. You know the beginning of this horror movie. We've seen it, again, countless times, but then you're starting to be like, why are we in this town? What is going on with this town? I love that there is the mystery of who is going to be Friendo. What is this killer going on? Is it a ghostly being? Is it a real person? What is going on with that? I love that mystery here, but I also love the mystery of once you get to the town, you're like, what's wrong with this? And you can see the hatred building up between just the townies and some of the younger kids and some of the older people. There is such a traditional Founders Day kind of vibe here. So this town is definitely at odds with each other. They definitely don't understand what is happening on both ends. It seems like the youth is revolting, it seems like the older people are revolting, and there's some tension here. There's also a weirdness that everything kind of feels like it's in the 90s still. I actually loved the aesthetic choices of this movie, that it felt somehow modern, but also somehow a classic 90s, late 80s slasher as well. That just the little elements to this that makes it such a good viewing. So yeah, basically Quinn is introduced to the group of rebellious kids. They make low budget horror movies around town. They may have gotten into some mischief that has caused some tension between everybody. And that's kind of the basic outline. Quinn's meeting this new group of friends, trying to figure out what's going on, and then Friendo starts to terrorize all of these kids. And that is all I want to say for the story aspect of this, because I can get into more details, but then you start getting to spoilers, because I did not think this movie would be a spoiler movie. I just saw a modern Marvel movie that I was just like, I could have told you the whole plot. There was no juicy spoilers. There's no twists and turns that I really was shocked by. But Clown in a Cornfield had the craziness, had the twist, had the turns, had the elements to make this one of the most compelling, one of the most surprising movies I have seen this year. That whole surprise element to this movie is why it's so good, and I think that's a strength Eli Craig has in him as a filmmaker. I know he is adapting this from a novel that, again, is a quick, easy read. I definitely recommend, if you're going to double feature both of these, read the book and watch the movie. I don't know, pick the order how you prefer to do those things, but I love what Eli Craig does here, because this is, to me, his signature. If you know Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, there is a bit of a twist to the narrative, a bit of a twist to what we expect from this horror movie. That's kind of what Clown in a Cornfield does as well. Not the exact type of twist, but I love that this movie had a moment where I went, what? There's that meme of the guy sitting up in the chair. That was me. That wasn't me going, okay, this is fun. Oh. I was so flabbergasted by the twist of this movie, and I was just so happy to see that they actually made a narrative choice, made a decision that felt bold. That is so rare, and that goes from the book to the movie as well. A bold choice was made. I know that sounds so simple and almost sounds condescending to be like, they made a bold choice, but they did, and that's what made this so impressive. They could have went the traditional slasher route, and I would have liked it. Something like Thanksgiving that came out a couple years ago. I liked it. It was a simple, straightforward slasher movie. No twists, no turns. It was exactly what you thought it would be, with a surprise killer reveal. This movie has a twist, has a different element to it that makes it surprising. I also love that this movie is just downright gory and bloody, like grody to the max. Truly, I was so like, oh, that kill was not as tame as I thought. I definitely thought this was going to run into PG-13 horror, and I could live in some of the kills a little bit more, but after watching, Hell of a Summer a couple weeks ago, that is such a bland, non-scary slasher movie with some of the weakest kills, I got into this movie and I'm like, disgusted, shocked, grossed out. That is awesome. Like, I love that this movie has the traditional twists and turns that we would want from a good slasher movie, but then it also has the classic gore that we would need. Something to, us gore hounds, us, horror freaks love a good bloody kill, and this movie has that. And then again, the added layer of some good humor. There are some really funny moments here. There's some really good heartfelt moments between characters. There is a relationship that spawns like kind of at the end of this movie, and you're like, what? I love these couple now. Like, why can't I spend more time with this couple? Why was this a third act reveal? Like, give me more of this. Just, again, so many elements here that I just was like, this I loved, this I love, this I love. Like, Eli Craig came back and made another comedy horror classic, and we all have to thank him for that. This movie has it all. It has clowns. It has a cornfield. It has, teens being stupid teens. It has crazy adults having to deal with their, crazy teens. I loved it. I absolutely loved this movie. I was expecting, like I said in the beginning, a pretty generic, a simple, straightforward horror movie, and I would have accepted that. I would have been fine if Clown in a Cornfield was just like straight up an hour and 30 minutes of what we've seen before with Freddy, Jason, Michael, all these iconic killers. I would have been okay with that. But this is giving me a bit of a Stephen King homage. This is giving me a bit of just old school slasher, but in that old school way that felt good, that felt different, that felt like Sleepaway Camp, that felt like The Prowler, that felt like all of these movies that really built the tradition of slasher movies. That's what this feels like an homage to. It is traditional slasher, but with a new edge to it, with a modern filter that just makes it so much more worthwhile, so much worth the viewing. When this drops in a cinema, when this drops in on Shudder, watch it. This is one of my biggest recommendations of the year. All right, everyone, what did you think of my review for Clown in a Cornfield? That is such a long title, though. Like, I've said Clown in a Cornfield this whole weekend 17,000 times, from telling friends of I have a movie coming up that you guys need to see. Oh my goodness, trying to not break review embargo, but being like, there was a movie y'all need to put on your list. Yes, I am so happy with this movie. I'm so happy to deliver this review all for you today. So make sure you guys check it out when it gets onto streaming, or if it is in a cinema around you. Definitely worth a cinematic viewing with a crowd full of people, but also think with popcorn at home with some friends, it could definitely be great as well. What did you all think of my review? What do you think of this movie? Share your thoughts down in the comments below. Subscribe to Flickering Myth for more videos like this. Give us a thumbs up if you did enjoy it, because YouTube takes those thumbs up way too darn serious. All right, everyone, what did you think of this? Share your thoughts, and let's talk about Clown in a Cornfield right down below.